I'm not going to change my personality. Ain't nobody, they can't fire me. I make too much money to get fired. Um, so they can't fire me.
Charles Barkley is wielding out at ESPN, straight up ripping up the script while Shannon Sharpe is left heated. Chuck just locked in a jaw-dropping $210 million deal, and now he's moving like he's untouchable. Skipping extra shows, refusing assignments, daring ESPN to fire him. And the crazy part? They won't do a thing. Meanwhile, Shannon's on the sidelines after being cut loose by the same network, caught up in scandal drama. Now he's stuck dealing with legal trouble, strict morality clauses, and a whole different grind. Most people in Charles Barkley...
I can tell you, I also spoke. As co-chairman of Disney, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro, who made it very, very clear we are taking this matter very seriously.
Position would just toe the company line, play it safe, and protect that paycheck. But not Chuck. He's got zero fear of being fired.
Why?
Because ESPN literally can't afford to let him go, and he knows it. He flat out said, "They can't fire me. I make too much money to get fired. If they do, they'll have to pay me for 7 years, and I'm quitting long before that. Honestly, I'd love for them to try." That's not a bluff. Barkley even admitted the only decision left is how long he wants to keep working. That's how secure he is. Meanwhile, Shannon Sharpe is on the sidelines watching it all play out. Chuck's moving fearless, saying, "I ain't..."
Two different radio national shows. And I said, I don't want to talk about LeBron James every freaking day or Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers or all the bullshit you got to talk about. I don't want to do that every day. Now you're going to ESPN. And you've been critical of ESPN, particularly their coverage of the Lakers. What are your thoughts as this is your last season heading over?
Yeah, Dan, I'm not going to change. I'm going to do what I want to do. Nobody's going to tell me what to say or what to do. I thought I get upset. They're like the Lakers are contenders. I'm like, no, they're not. No, they're not contenders. Kendrick Perkins, who don't know his ass from a hole in the wall. He's like, the Lakers are contenders. Lakers are contenders. And I said, they're not contenders.
Worried about getting fired. Nobody at ESPN is going to tell me what to say or do. And you better believe he means it. After all, back in 2022, he locked in that insane 10-year, $210 million deal. And here's the catch. Once you sign a contract like that, the money's guaranteed. If ESPN so much as thinks about firing him over bending a few rules, boom, they still owe him the full $210 million. That's a risk they're not even close to taking. And let's be real, Barkley's not built to grind until he's 70. Unlike Stephen A. Smith or Shannon Sharpe, who are still hustling for their next contracts, Chuck's already eyeing the exit door. He's playing by his own rules. Earlier this year on NBA TV, he shocked everyone when he dropped a bombshell. "I'm not going anywhere other than TNT, but I've already decided, no matter what happens, next year will be my last year on television." And no, it wasn't a ploy to get more offers. He made it clear he's already talked to other networks and has zero plans to sign with any of them. That means he's got nothing to lose. No pressure, no leash, no filter. Even when he sat down with Outkick recently, his stance hadn't changed. He admitted ESPN asked about his future, but he made it clear he won't finish out the full deal. Technically, he's got 7 years left, but in reality, no chance he's riding it out. If ESPN pulls the plug early, they'll still be cutting that massive check. And Barkley's not even waiting until he shows up at ESPN to flex his power. He's already throwing elbows, saying straight up he won't be doing appearances on Get Up, First Take, SportsCenter, none of it. When he makes the move, he's only doing what he wants. And that's final. Here's the twist. ESPN is set to license inside the NBA starting next season since TNT Sports lost the NBA rights. So Chuck's making the move, but the network is stuck. They want maximum value out of that $210 million investment, but Barkley's making it clear he's the one calling the shots. Charles Barkley is stepping into a completely different landscape, one where salaries for sportscasters have skyrocketed and the power balance has shifted. If TNT had ever let him walk, it would have been a disaster. And now that ESPN's got him, you can bet they're going to try plugging him into as many shows as possible. But here's the problem. Chuck already made it crystal clear. He's not clocking extra hours for anybody. And that's not all. He's not thrilled about sharing airtime with Stephen A. Smith or Kendrick Perkins. Especially not Perkins. Barkley even roasted him on air, saying, "Perkins can't tell the difference between a hole in the wall and his own booty hole." Brutal. With burns like that, don't expect those two to be on the same screen anytime soon. Chuck's coming into ESPN like a tornado, ignoring the playbook, doing his own thing, and still collecting the bag. And if anybody's bitter watching it all unfold, it's Shannon Sharpe. Remember, this is the same network that cut him loose after his lawsuit drama. So yeah, you know he's feeling some type of way seeing Chuck move like a king. Word on the street is Shannon's even had a few things to say.
Charles Barkley has reportedly agreed to a 10-year deal with TNT that's estimated to be worth over $100 million. Let's be honest, Barkley is arguably one of the most popular sports studio analysts out there, and he's in a landscape where salaries for sportscasters have just changed dramatically over the years. And if TNT were to let him go, it'd just be terrible. Just terrible.
To say behind the scenes. But before he starts throwing fits, he might want to check the scoreboard. He and Chuck aren't even in the same league when it comes to influence. According to the New York Times, ESPN is paying Shannon a cool $6.5 million a year just to spar with Stephen A. twice a week on First Take. But when it comes to importance, ESPN isn't risking their entire image over him. Chuck is pulling superstar numbers. Shannon's big, no doubt, but not untouchable. And here's the kicker. Shannon's tied up in a public civil suit involving a woman barely old enough to drink. That's not the kind of spotlight Disney, ESPN's parent company, wants anywhere near their brand. Disney doesn't play when it comes to protecting their image. And that's exactly where those tight morality clauses start to come into play. These contracts are written with vague wording on purpose, terms like public disrepute, humiliation, or scandal.
Why?
Because that gives the network the power to cut ties with anyone who might stain the brand. And that's exactly how guys like Shannon Sharpe end up on the chopping block. Let's be real. Disney didn't drop Shannon on a whim. He fumbled.
Bad.
The man's 56 years old and got caught up with a 19-year-old.
Come on now.
That alone had executives shaking their heads. And this isn't even his first time making headlines for the wrong reasons. After last year's viral Instagram moment, when the whole internet basically got a front row seat to his bedroom, you'd think he'd be moving smarter by now. But nope. No NDA, no control, just bad decisions stacking up. That's not how you survive in this industry, especially when your checks are signed by Disney. Disney's about keeping a squeaky clean image.
But for me personally, I wanted you guys to hear from me because I'm not doing any more interviews. Don't y'all be calling me. Nobody calling me. I'm not talking about this again, but I want to tell my NBA and NBA TV and TNT family that I'm not going to another network, but I'm going to pass the baton to either Jamal Crawford or Vince Carter or you, Steve. But next year, I'm going to just retire after 25 years, and I just want to say thank you.
And the second you bring drama to their doorstep, they'll show you the exit without blinking. Word on the street says they didn't just sideline Shannon. Some insiders claim he's banned from the network altogether. One source even said his ESPN career is already finished. But hold up, other insiders are saying something different. According to someone close to ESPN Productions, Shannon is still locked in for First Take every Monday and Tuesday. Any extra days off? Just scheduled time off, nothing more. So, the final verdict is still murky. What is clear, though, is that this scandal hit hard and fast. Even Stephen A. Smith confirmed that Disney's CEO personally reached out to him about how serious the situation was. When top execs are getting directly involved, that tells you everything you need to know. And let's not act like Shannon was winning popularity contests behind the scenes either. Rumors say he wasn't exactly the easiest guy to work with. Really wanted to, I could stay for 7 years, which there's no chance of that forward to the Disney ESPN drama. Technically, they could have kept Shannon around even with the lawsuits and bad press, but they already knew the backlash would have been nasty.
Public
Opinions louder than ever, and Disney wasn't about to risk their polished brand. image for someone knee-deep in controversy. Even former Sports Center anchor Sage Steele threw in her 2 cents. She didn't hold back either. On X, formerly Twitter, she blasted ESPN for what she called a broken system. She claimed that Disney was quicker to punish conservative voices than deal with folks accused of real wrongdoing. In her words, there's a long list of examples showing ESPN treats conservative viewpoints like a worse offense than questionable character.
I can tell you, I also spoke as co-chairman of Disney, the boss, Jimmy Pitaro, who made it very, very clear we are taking this matter very seriously. And we are looking into this very, very closely.
That all came in response to a post calling out the double standards, pointing out that ESPN let go of women with conservative opinions while someone like Shannon, who's been caught up in multiple scandals involving women, got to keep a spot, at least for a while. That's the kind of tension bubbling under the surface, and folks are finally calling it out loud, just putting it out there. Another former ESPN employee, Ashley Brewer-Kaminsky, didn't stay quiet either. She jumped in with her own story saying, "Never forget when I got chewed out by my boss for posting a pic of a Republican congressman and a UFC fighter on my Instagram story at the McGregor fight. LOL. FYI, the network has a strict policy about discussing politics on air." Yeah. Meanwhile, Shannon Sharpe was out here in a whole legal storm and still got airtime, at least for a while. Remember, Sage Steele got suspended just for speaking out against the company's COVID vaccine mandate. When you stack that up next to what Shannon was involved in, it's clear who got a softer landing. If Disney had tried to keep Shannon around after all that, it would have opened the floodgates. Ex-employees could have lined up with lawsuits, dragging the company through court over wrongful termination claims. So cutting ties was the smartest move.
You know, there's been a lot of noise around our network the last few months. And I just want to say, I've talked to all the other networks, but I ain't going nowhere.
The only decision we've been making is how long I'm on work. And I've been going back and forth with TNT for the last 2 months, whether I'm gonna work 2 years or 3 years. But if I really wanted to, I could stay for 7 years, which there's no chance of that happening. Zero.
Move they could make. Clean break, no more headaches. Now let's talk Barkley. Yeah, he might be ruffling feathers at the top with all this talk about early retirement and not playing by the rules. But let's be real, he's not out here causing legal messes or sparking scandals. Compared to Shannon, Chuck is basically squeaky clean. That's exactly why he's still winning. Charles is valuable. He pulls numbers, he's got fans, and the network can't afford to lose him. Shannon, not the same story. He's replaceable and ESPN knows it. Even Stephen A. Smith, who publicly backed Shannon, had to admit the writing was on the wall. He said when the decision was made for Shannon to step away from the network, it hit hard, but it wasn't a surprise. Stephen said it was a blow. A blow to the show, a blow to me personally, because I'm going to miss him. But it was not a surprise. He was working at Disney. I've been at Disney since October of 2003. I know this place. I know the worldwide leader that is ESPN. So now we've got Charles bending all the rules and walking away clean, while Shannon's out here catching L's and getting mad about it. But before he pops off and does something that takes his image from bad to worse, maybe it's time he sat down and faced the facts. Because truth is, he only got what he had coming. But hey, what do you think? Should Shannon be mad? Or is this just a harsh lesson in playing the media game? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your people. See you in the next
one.
If Disney really wanted to, they could have kept Shannon around despite the lawsuits and the bad press. But let's be real, the backlash would have been brutal. Public opinion's louder than ever, and Disney wasn't about to risk their shiny brand image for somebody drowning in controversy. Even former SportsCenter anchor Sage Steele jumped in, and she did not hold back. On X, formerly Twitter, she blasted ESPN for what she called a broken system. In her words, there's a long list of examples showing ESPN treats conservative viewpoints like a worse offense than questionable character. And she's not the only one calling it out. Former ESPN host Ashley Brewer-Kaminsky shared her own story. She said, "Never forget when I got chewed out by my boss for posting a pic of a Republican congressman and a UFC fighter at the McGregor fight. LOL." Meanwhile, Shannon Sharpe was knee-deep in legal drama and still got airtime. The double standards are clear. Sage Steele was suspended just for speaking out against the company's COVID vaccine mandate. Compare that to what Shannon was involved in? Let's just say he got a softer landing. If Disney had tried to keep him after all that, the floodgates would have opened. Former employees could have lined up with lawsuits, dragging the company through court over wrongful termination. Cutting ties was the cleanest move. No more headaches, no more mess. Now, let's talk about Charles Barkley. Yeah, he might be ruffling feathers with all his retirement talk and refusing to play by the rules. But here's the difference. Chuck isn't out here caught in legal scandals or sparking tabloid drama. Compared to Shannon, Charles is squeaky clean. And that's exactly why he's winning.